I just wanted to do an update video because it's been a fair while since I've last done a video. So it's the 10th, no, it's the 11th of October 2019. So I think since my last video, a lot's changed. I'm kind of transition wise, I'm still on Libido every 12 weeks. That's going really well. Since I kind of went from Sustanon to Libido, I had my one blood test as soon as you kind of transfer over onto it, but I haven't had anything since. I think my GP wasn't given any guidance, and I kind of just pushed it back to the back of my mind really about it. But I emailed Charing Cross, their endocrinologist there, a couple of times, and I got a letter through the post, which gave me the guidance on what blood tests I need. So GP's booked me in for blood tests. It's coming Monday. So hopefully we'll just check all the results and make sure they're okay. I still feel like I'm responding really well to the libido. I've not had any problems with it. Mood swings are a lot better. I can still tell a little bit when I'm due my next injection. Still feeling a little bit irritable. But I think I'm able to notice that even a little bit more, even kind of going, oh, I'm irritable. Am I doing my injection? Yeah, I'm doing my injection. That makes sense. So I can kind of pick it up that way now. But they're being really good at the doctor's surgery, booking me in and things. Not had any issues with any injections. I've had a couple of times after my injections, just a really sharp, stinging, burning pain, kind of running all the way from my bottom muscles all the way down my leg and things like that. I've had it about twice, I think, and I think they've just kind of caught a bit of a nerve and things, and it's so uncomfortable. It's ridiculous. It's literally like your leg is burning. It's a really weird thing to kind of describe, but once you've had it, you go, yeah, okay, that's what that is. So everything kind of hormone wise is going well. The next real bit of my transition is I'm down for a hysterectomy. So I'm actually booked in on that on Thursday. So that's only like five, 5 or 6 days away. So it's something that Charing Cross kind of wrote a letter to my GP about, that he could refer me directly for that locally. So that's been about 2 years maybe in the pipe. Yeah, probably about 2 years in the pipeline. Just because of funding issues, and then it got put on the back burner from them and various bits and pieces. But it's now been all approved, so I've got the funding for that. So I'm going in Thursday for that. It's going to be a keyhole, so there'll be less scars. The surgeon said if he couldn't do it keyhole, he'd have to do a scar, but instead of going across, he'll go from the belly button down. He can still get everything he needs to that way, but going across kind of the underwear line, it's very indicative of one type of surgery, being a hysterectomy. So he said that they'll do another one, which I'm quite happy with. The only bits really that I'm anxious about, I suppose, is kind of the post-op care side of things, mainly wearing kind of pads and having to wear female underwear to manage those pads and things. We went out the weekend, got some very plain underwear that can support pads and things like that, and then I'm just going to wear my baggy boxers over the top, just because I know that will help me manage my dysphoria so much better. Bit anxious about going in and being on the ward, and then kind of the consultants, surgeons, or whatever coming over and having a chat about what they're going to be doing. And I'm hoping it's going to be somewhere private where they can kind of say what's going to happen rather than doing it in the bay. Sorry, I'm just trying to record this on my mobile. So a little bit anxious about that. But the actual operation itself, I'm not particularly worried about. I know a lot of trans people don't have the hysterectomy and things like that, but I have no intention carrying my own children. I have, in my family history, I have some kind of cancer. I have various cancers and things like that in my family history, and I kind of think actually that it's not doing anything for me. So I just prefer to have everything out, just reduce the risk of any cancers, any kind of anxieties regarding that as well. So yes, that's that side of things. In terms of my life and things, it's very much, I think the main point of this video is saying it does get better. Life does get better. It might not often seem it at that moment, but looking back, say 6 months, a year, 5 years ago, you realise actually how much better your life is now. So me and Amy got married in June 2017. Yes, June 2017. It went really well. We had Amy's aunt being our celebrant, so the actual person marrying us, because she does that anyway, or did do it anyway. So she was able to announce us as husband and wife. I got my GRC, my gender recognition certificate, about a couple of months before we got married. It didn't take too much effort to do. All the paperwork I provided was any letters from Charing Cross, from the consultants there. I included, because you have to prove that you've been living in your new gender for the last 2 years. So I had all those letters. I had a bill for, I think, every month of those 2 years, either gas, electric, or whatever. And then I handed over all my pay slips for the last 2 years, those 2 years, and yeah, so I had to pay my money and things, got that all sorted, got that back, very happy with that side of things. So yeah, me and Amy are now married, and we had no real issues when we were registering our marriage. I think they had to check a couple of bits and pieces just to make sure that I didn't have to disclose my old name and things like that, but it all got sorted, and there isn't my birth name on the marriage certificate anyway, which is great. Also, very big change in our lives. We now have a baby son. He is 3 months old, born in July, beginning of July. So we ended up going privately because our local NHS funding group don't provide it for same-sex couples, and because we had to use a sperm donor, we're then considered kind of ish a same-sex couple, but we don't fit into their categories of getting funding. Anyway, so we had to pay for it all. It's a very big expense, and so we started off with 3 cycles of IUI, which is just the insemination of sperm. So he got a sperm from, I think it was Brighton Fertility Clinic in the end, where they basically give you a kind of website, I think it is, and you have to kind of choose which sperm donor you want, depending on what features you want. So I think we chose someone very similar to me, so a little bit taller than me. I think he was a little bit stockier than I am, but kind of brown eyes, there's this kind of brown hair, athletic, those sorts of things that is me, but within the sperm donor, just so then it could replicate me a little bit more. Went through 3 cycles of IUI, which wasn't successful. It was a lot of hard work, wasn't successful. Then we had a very big discussion about, do we go through IVF, or do we kind of go scrap that idea and just go through adoption. Amy had a chat with a couple of her colleagues that went through adoption and was like, I don't know what to do. And we looked at our finances, we could fund it. Said, right, we'll go through IVF. So we had 1 round of IVF and we were successful. I know a lot of couples aren't successful from IVF, especially the first time. So we are very, very fortunate from that. And again, that was privately funded. So we have, I think there was six or so eggs that matured very, very well, and they picked the best of the bunch, and popped it back in, Amy, for it to grow properly. So we had a choice of, they said that if they weren't maturing very well, then we could put in 1 or 2. But they said with the one they did put back in, it was very, very good. So they wouldn't want to put 2 back in because it's just got more of a chance of, there's the risk that both of those will split. And so we will have, then there'll be 4, and then it just puts the babies at risk. So 1 back in, it did very well, and now we've got our son Casper, who is very, very healthy. He's asleep at the moment in bed, but yeah, he's doing very well. When we had to register his birth, the lady we met, she was, "Have you been known by any other name?" I was like, "Well, yes." So I had to explain my transition and that side of things. So she had to go and speak to a colleague about could I be named down as the father? Do I have to disclose any other previous names and things like that? The outcome was that I could be put on the birth certificate as father, Amy obviously on mother. Didn't have to put any other birth names or anything like that. So again, that's great. I think throughout the whole pregnancy, we had to disclose a lot of my trans history, and I think at certain times, even during the labour, I kind of slightly giggled to my head and things like that. Because whenever we'd have our scans and things like that, they would say that the baby's growing very, very big and things like that. He's got a very big head and a very big belly and things like that. And Amy, yes, she had a good bump, a good pregnancy bump, but it wasn't massive. Even like when, during labour, they would say, "No, I don't think you'll have a big baby. Looking at the size of you, there's not much of you." And then actually when we had him, yeah, he was surprisingly big. And we kept having people come in, doctors and all the nurses, midwives and things, kind of say, "He's a very big baby. Just doesn't seem to get that from either of you. Were you too big when you were little?" Sometimes we'd kind of explain that he was a baby from donor sperm, so it's got no correlation to me whatsoever. And other times we'd kind of slightly giggle to ourselves, go, no, we're fine when we weren't big when we were born and things like that. But it's just another thing that you kind of have to judge on that situation. It's like, do I disclose? Is it needed? Is it appropriate? Does it affect anything whatsoever? But it was all a very positive experience. When we disclosed to people my trans history, they were absolutely fine with it. No one that I can really recall asked any questions or anything like that. So now with Casper, we're doing various bits and pieces. So we're doing swimming with him and things like that. So both me and Amy are getting in the pool with him. We are doing shared parental leave. So effectively, we can kind of spread the up to the years maternity leave how we wish between me and Amy. So Amy's had off since Casper was born up until just before Christmas, and then I've got just before Christmas to, I've got 4 months from just before Christmas off, and then Amy's back off work for a couple of weeks, about 6 weeks I think, and then I'm back off for a month. I think it's just good because it allows me and Casper to bond, do things together, take off some of that load for Amy. But I think it really allows both of us to appreciate when the other one has to look after them, and actually the stresses and the strains that can entail as well. So everything's going really, really well. If anyone does have any questions about the marriage side of things, the pregnancy, that side of things, or transition or anything like that, please feel free to message me on this. I'm more than happy to answer anything. If there's anything that I don't want to disclose, I'll just say that I'm not happy to, but you can always just put those questions out there and I can see what we can do. The main thing really is it does get better, and I think a lot of people now are tending to transition when they're a little bit younger, and feel a lot more vulnerable, and actually going, I think at the beginning of my transition is like, is this the thing that I need to do? Do I need to do this? Can I continue living as I am at the time? it's like, I'm not sure. I don't know if I could have continued living. It would have definitely been a very different life. I'm much more confident now. I'm much more happier, um, much more content, and things like that. Um, I think living as female, I think there would always be that point where I've gone, no, I can't anymore. And would that have been when I was 30, when it'd be much more difficult to begin my transition? Would it have been when I was 50? Wouldn't it be, there would always be that point. So I think it's finding someone that you can trust, having an open, honest chat with them, seeking that support. If you're young, if it's get that support from someone that you, either a teacher or something like that. If you can, someone from the LGBT plus community. Sometimes it's a family member, sometimes it's a family friend, something like that. Somewhere where you can get that support, to be that sounding board, and so that when you do have a really crap day, you can chat to them about it and express how you feel. It does get better. It really, really does. It might not seem it right now, but in 10 years' time, you will feel like a very different person. You'll be able to be a much truer self to you. So I know people's transitions are very different, and there are very many bumps along the road. But as long as it's a road that you're still wanting to be down, then you'll get support. Okay. I said, if anyone's got any questions or anything like that, please just send me a message, and I'll get back to you. But otherwise, all the best to everyone.